Hey love, welcome to Love and Heartbreak Tale, where we tell the stories that your heart didn't know it needed. If you're listening right now, maybe it's late at night, the rain's tapping on your window, and your thoughts are loud. Just breathe. You're not alone. Tonight's story is one of love, betrayal, and the kind of truth that wakes you up at 3 a.m. So grab your tea, wrap yourself in something warm, and let's take this emotional ride together. The last text she never meant to send me exposed everything. I still remember the exact moment my world came crashing down. It was a Tuesday evening in October, just after 7:30 p.m. I was sitting on our grey sectional sofa, the one Melissa and I had spent 3 weekends searching for when we first moved in together. The living room was bathed in the soft glow of the floor lamp beside me, and outside, the streetlights were just beginning to flicker on as dusk settled over our neighbourhood in Queen. It's funny how your brain captures these mundane details when something life-altering happens, like your mind is desperately trying to anchor itself to something normal while everything else spins out of control. Melissa and I met 4 years ago at a friend's housewarming party in Manhattan. I had just moved to New York from London 6 months prior, still adjusting to the pace of American life while maintaining ties to my Jamaican roots. My parents had emigrated to England before I was born, and I'd followed a job opportunity across the Atlantic, eager to experience yet another culture, another chance to redefine home. Melissa was beautiful, confident, and laughed at my jokes, even the terrible ones. With her Nigerian-American background, we connected over our shared experiences as children of immigrants, navigating multiple cultural identities while trying to carve out our own paths. She understood the pressure of family expectations, the occasional homesickness for places we'd never truly lived, and the strange feeling of belonging everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Our relationship moved quickly. Within 8 months, we were living together in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Astoria. The rental market was brutal, but we managed to find a place with enough space for both of us to work from home occasionally. Her in marketing for a tech startup, me in financial consulting. We decorated with a blend of IKEA practicality and treasures from our travels. A hand-carved wooden mask from Lagos, colourful textiles from my grandmother in Jamaica, and photographs of London streets where I'd spent my university years. For 3 years I thought we were happy. We had our friend group, mostly other young professionals with similar backgrounds, straddling cultures and building careers. We had our routines, Sunday brunches at the local Caribbean spot that reminded me of home, weekend video calls to our families overseas, and plans to visit Nigeria together the following year. We talked about marriage, children, buying property instead of renting. We were building a life. Or so I thought. It started with small things, changes so subtle I barely noticed them at first. Melissa began working later, picking up extra projects that kept her at the office well past dinner time. Our weekend brunches became solo affairs as she begged off, citing deadlines and work stress. When I'd suggest a movie night or dinner with friends, she'd seem distracted, checking her phone constantly. "Is everything okay?" I'd ask. And she'd smile that smile that used to light up her whole face, but now seemed to stop at her lips. "Just tired, Marcus. This campaign is killing me." I believed her. We were both ambitious, both understood the hustle required to succeed in New York. Her startup was growing rapidly, and with growth came opportunity and pressure. I told myself to be supportive, to give her space. The distance between us grew slowly, imperceptibly, like a glacier retreating millimetre by millimetre, until suddenly there's an ocean where solid ground once stood. Our conversations became perfunctory, logistical. Can you pick up laundry detergent? Did you pay the internet bill? The easy intimacy we'd shared, conversations about our dreams, our fears, our families, faded into polite silence. Sexual intimacy dwindled too. When I'd reach for her at night, she'd mumble something about being exhausted or having an early meeting. Tomorrow, she'd promise, but tomorrow never seemed to come. Still, I didn't suspect anything. I thought we were just going through a rough patch, the kind all couples face. I thought we'd weather it together, like we'd weathered culture shock and homesickness and the challenges of building careers in a city that never stops demanding more. That Tuesday in October, I was waiting for Melissa to come home. She'd texted earlier saying she had a dinner meeting with clients and would be late. I ordered takeout for myself and settled on the couch to catch up on work emails. At 7:32 p.m, my phone pinged with a message from Melissa. I opened it, expecting another update on her. Instead, I read, "Can't wait to see you again tonight. Last time was incredible. Em's working late so we have time. Same hotel?" My heart stopped. The message clearly wasn't meant for me. In that moment, I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching myself read those words over and over, trying to find an alternative explanation beyond the obvious. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe she was messaging about a surprise for me. Maybe she sent it to the wrong person entirely. I replied, "Melissa, I think you sent this to the wrong person." 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then reappeared, then disappeared again. 5 excruciating minutes later, my phone rang. Melissa's face lit up my screen. "Marcus, I can explain," she said before I even had a chance to speak. "I'm listening," I said, surprised by the calmness in my voice, when inside I felt like I was breaking into 1,000 pieces. "It's not what you think," she started, but we both knew that was a lie. I hung up and turned off my phone. I needed time to think, to process what was happening without her voice in my ear, without her explanations or excuses. "20 minutes later, I heard her key in the door. She'd left her client dinner, if there ever was one, and rushed home. Her face when she saw me sitting there on the couch, her message still open on my phone, told me everything I needed to know. "How long?" I asked as she stood in the doorway, still wearing her coat, as if she wasn't sure she'd be staying. "Marcus, please." "How?" "Long." My voice was steady, but I could feel a tremor building deep inside me, like the warning signs before an earthquake. She sank into the armchair across from me, not meeting my eyes. 3 months. 3 months. 90 days of lies, of coming home to me after being with someone else, of working late and client dinners and I'm too tired. "Who is he?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. She hesitated. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." She took a deep breath. "David." "From work. He's the new creative director." "David." I'd heard his name before in passing. American. Divorced. Recently moved from Chicago. Melissa had mentioned him a few times casually, too casually in retrospect. David thinks we should pivot the strategy. David and I are working on the new campaign together. "Do you love him?" The question escaped before I could stop it, and I immediately regretted it. Did I really want to know? "I don't know," she said quietly. "I think I might." Those words cut deeper than any others. Not the admission of the affair, not the months of deception, but the possibility that she had given her heart to someone else while pretending to still share it with me. The aftermath. The next few hours were a blur of accusations, tears, and painful revelations. Melissa tried to explain she felt disconnected from me. David understood her career ambitions in a way I supposedly didn't. It had started as just friendship and evolved. The classic script of infidelity, as if reading from a teleprompter of clichés. I listened, numb at first, then increasingly angry. Not just at the betrayal, but at the rewriting of our history. Had I really been so inattentive? Had I failed to support her career? Weren't we both children of immigrants who understood the drive to succeed, to make our family's sacrifices worthwhile? You could have talked to me, I said finally. If you were unhappy, if something was missing, you could have given me the chance to fix it. I know, she whispered. I should have. But she didn't. Instead, she chose deception, chose to build a parallel life while maintaining the facade of ours. By midnight, we'd talked ourselves hoarse. Melissa had moved from the armchair to the floor, leaning against the wall. I remained on the sofa, physically and emotionally unable to move closer to her. What happens now? She asked. It was the question I'd been avoiding. What did happen now? Could we move past this? Did I want to? I don't know, I answered honestly. I need time. The decision. I didn't go to work the next day, or the day after. I called in sick and spent hours walking through the city, from Astoria to Central Park and back again, trying to clear my head. I called my best friend, Aidan, another London transplant whose parents had emigrated from Ghana. He listened without judgment as I poured out the whole story. What would you do? I asked him. I can't answer that for you, he said. But I will say this, trust is like paper, man. Once it's crumpled, it can never be perfectly smooth again. I thought about calling my parents but decided against it. They had always liked Melissa, had been thrilled I'd found someone who understood our cultural background. My mother had already started dropping hints about grandchildren. I couldn't bear to disappoint them, to admit that what they thought was solid was actually built on sand. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my grandmother in Jamaica. At 83, Grandma Pearl had seen more of life than anyone I knew. She'd survived the loss of her husband, raised 5 children largely on her own, and watched them scatter across the globe in search of opportunities. Marcus, my boy, she said when she heard my voice. Her Jamaican accent, stronger than my parents', instantly transported me to childhood visits to her small house in Montego Bay. What troubles you? I told her everything. Unlike Aidan, she didn't hesitate to offer advice. You know the old saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, she said. But life isn't always so simple. The question isn't just can you forgive her, but can you forget? Because forgiveness without forgetting is like a wound that never fully heals. It will pain you every time the weather changes. I don't know if I can do either, I admitted. Then there's your answer, she said gently. Love without trust is just another form of suffering. By the time I returned to the apartment 3 days later, I had made my decision. Melissa was sitting at our dining table, looking smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of what she'd done. I can't do this, I told her. I can't stay. She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. I understand. Do you? I asked. Do you understand what you've thrown away? We had a life planned. We had a future. I know, she said. I'll regret it forever. But regret wouldn't undo the damage. It wouldn't restore my trust or erase the images in my head of her with someone else. It wouldn't delete that accidental text message that had shattered everything. The rebuilding. The next few weeks were a logistical nightmare of separating our lives. Who would keep the apartment? how I couldn't bear to stay surrounded by memories. How would we divide our shared possessions? I took only what I'd brought into the relationship, leaving behind the things we'd chosen together. What would we tell our friends? The truth. Abbreviated, we broke up. It didn't work out. I found a small studio in Washington Heights, far enough from Astoria that I wouldn't accidentally run into Melissa at our favorite coffee shop or grocery store. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects, staying late at the office because going home to an empty apartment felt too much like failure. The pain didn't disappear overnight. There were moments waking up alone, seeing couples on the street, hearing a song that reminded me of her when it hit me all over again. The betrayal. The loss, the abrupt end to what I thought was the beginning of my life. But gradually, almost imperceptibly, things began to change. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my relationship. I joined a soccer league with other Caribbean and African transplants. I video called my family more regularly, though I still couldn't bring myself to tell them the full truth about why Melissa and I had split. 6 months after moving out, I ran into David at a networking event. He clearly knew who I was. His face went pale when he saw me. For a moment I considered confronting him, asking him if she was worth it, if he understood the destruction they'd caused together. Instead, I nodded politely and walked away. He wasn't worth my anger. Neither of them were. The lesson. A year has passed since that text message changed everything. Melissa and I haven't spoken in months. Through mutual friends, I heard she and David didn't last apparently. Relationships founded on deception rarely do. She moved to Chicago for a new job, a fresh start. I wished her well, silently, from a distance. As for me, I'm still in New York, still building my career, still navigating life as part of the diaspora, still figuring out where home really is. But I'm doing it with new wisdom, hard-earned through pain. I've started dating again, cautiously. Hannah is Ethiopian American, a pediatric nurse with a laugh that makes everyone around her smile. We're taking things slowly. She knows about Melissa, about the betrayal. Not all of us are like that, she told me on our third date. Some of us understand that love means choosing someone every day, even when it's difficult. I want to believe her. Most days I do. What did I learn from all this? That trust is fragile. That love requires honesty. That sometimes people who share your background don't necessarily share your values. That a single text message can reveal truths that months of conversation concealed. But most importantly, I learned that endings, even painful ones, can be beginnings in disguise. That resilience isn't about avoiding heartbreak, but about how you rebuild afterward. That my identity as a man of Jamaican heritage, as a Londoner in New York, as someone who loved and lost is made up of all these experiences, even the ones that broke me. So, if you're going through something similar, if you've just received that text, that phone call, that confession that changes everything, know this: the pain is real. The betrayal cuts deep. The future you imagined is gone. But you will survive it. You will rebuild. You will find joy again, perhaps with someone new, perhaps on your own. The road is long, but you're stronger than you know. And one day you might even be grateful for that message that was never meant for you, because it revealed a truth you needed to see, even if it wasn't the truth you wanted. The truth that set you free. And that was tonight's tale. Sometimes the deepest heartbreaks lead to the most powerful awakenings. If this story stirred something in you, if you saw yourself, your past, or your healing in it, know that this space is for you. Every night we're here with more stories to make you feel seen, heard, and understood. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment with your thoughts, or share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have a story to tell, Email us at stories@headquarters@gmail.com. You never know who needs to hear your truth. Good night, love. May the rain wash away your pain and the dawn bring you peace. Amen.